Another Friday holiday means another pre-recorded tutorial. So Friday people, here it is. This is week 10. So we're finishing up syntax. We're drawing some phrases for CPs. And then we're going to take a look at some foreign language problems. So the first question is to draw trees for the following phrases. So please try this yourself. Pause the video and now I will go through it. So we'll do each one on a separate slide. So I'll rewrite the sentence at the bottom. I think that Fred thinks that I am dumb. So this question was very similar to the Steve knows that Mary knows that I know question. So we can start labeling our categories. So I is a pronoun, think is a verb. That is introducing a new clause. Fred thinks that I am dumb. So this is a complementizer. Fred is a noun, thinks is a verb. That is introducing another little clause. I am dumb. So that's going to be a complementizer. I is a pronoun, am is a verb, and dumb is an adjective. So we know that we're going to need 3 TPs in total because we have 3 little clauses here. So this pronoun is going to build the subject of our first TP. Think is present tense, so this will be minus past, and it's going to need a verb phrase that takes V as the verb. So now we have a complementizer phrase, so CP, and this is going to link our CP to our new tense phrase. So Fred will be the subject of that noun phrase, of that new tense phrase. We're going to have thinks, so this is also minus past, and we're going to need a predicate verb phrase, so that'll take thinks. Now we just repeat the same thing. So it's going to take a complement that I am dumb, so this will be a CP that links to that VP. And now we're going to need a new tense phrase that has tense. So am is minus past. It's going to be a verb phrase that takes the V. And we're going to get an adjective phrase, dumb, as the complement of am. So we get a full tree that looks like this, just highlighting the fact that we have complementizers that are introducing our TPs right after. All right, question 2. We can believe that you are doing your work. So let's write this here. We only have one complementizer here, that, because we have a little sentence inside, you are doing your work. But this question is a good review of modals as well as auxiliary phrases. So let's label each of these. We is a pronoun, can is a modal, so that's going to go under T. Believe is a verb. That is introducing a new sentence. You are doing your work. So this will be a complementizer. You is a pronoun. And then we have are doing. So are is an auxiliary that's supporting the main verb doing. And then we have your work. Work is a noun, and your is acting as the determiner for that noun. So we're going to need 2 TPs in this case. We're going to have we as the subject of our first TP. We're going to have T as our tense, and this is going to require a verb phrase that takes the verb as its head. Now we're introducing a complementizer phrase because we're going to take a sentence as the verb's complement. So now we just need to build our second TP here for this little sentence. So you is going to be the subject. We have tense, which is minus past because of are. The auxiliary is going to form an auxiliary phrase because we have a supporting verb, which is going to take the verb phrase as a complement, and then doing takes a complement as well, which would be your work. And all that's left to do is to link our 2 little sentences together with the complementizer phrase. So this is, we can believe that you are doing your work. One more. The cute Sheba hoped that he could lick a sweet puppercino. So for this one, I thought I could just drag it down to the bottom of the page, but Doesn't quite look like that, so I'll copy and paste it just to save us a little bit more time with this one. Let's label some categories. The is a determiner, cute is an adjective, Sheba will be a noun, hoped is a verb. We have a that after, which is introducing a new sentence. He could lick a sweet puppuccino. So this that is going to be a complementizer. He is a pronoun. Could is a modal, so that will be under T. Lick is a verb. And then we have a sweet puppuccino, so a determiner, an adjective, and a noun. So we'll need two TPs here. One for the main clause, which is going to consist of the cute Sheba. So this is going to be a noun phrase that takes all of that, connecting to the TP. We're going to need tense, so this will be plus past because we have hoped, and it's going to need a verb phrase that is headed by the verb. Now, this C is going to start a new CP as a complement, and now we need to start a new TP inside. So it needs a subject he. We have tense here under could. We have the verb phrase connecting to verb, which is lick, and then we need a sweet puppuccino, which will be our complement to the verb. So that's going to take the determiner, the adjective phrase sweet, and the noun puppuccino. And we're just linking our two little sentences together with the CP. So hopefully after that practice, you've done a little bit better with CPs, and these should not be too bad for you. Just remember that we have three that we look at in this course, which is that, if, and whether. So you're looking for each of these, and you're looking for a tense phrase that follows after. All right. So the second question is from Japanese. So we have some Japanese sentences, and how this works is we have the original on top, we have a one-to-one translation below each one, and then we have a translation of the full sentence so that we understand what it means. So we have some guiding questions here to answer, and then we're going to draw some tree structures. So the first question is, what is the word order for Japanese? So is it subject, verb, object, subject, object, verb, verb, object, subject, or so on? So what we can do is we can take a look at each of these sentences and see what we find. So in number one, the translation is that book fell. So that book is going to be the subject. So we can find that there. And fell is going to be the object. Sorry, fell is going to be the verb. So we find the verb after. So we know the verb goes after the subject. So it's not going to be any of these ones. Sorry, the first one I crossed out was incorrect. The verb is after the subject. So we need to find a sentence with an object. So we can look at the second one, I ate the pork quickly. So I is going to be the subject, the pork is going to be the object, and ate will be our verb. So what does that look like in Japanese? Well, we have I first, so we have our subject. Then we have pork after, which will be object. And then we have our verb following that. So it's subject, object, verb. And that will be the answer to our question. So we could have just started with two. That probably would have been a smarter idea. So I'm going to clear this bit now and ask the second question. Do auxiliaries appear after the head or before the head? So in other words, after or before the verb. Well, what are our auxiliaries? Things like progressive, perfect, things like that. So what do we find? Well, in 3, it says we were sleeping. So we have our verb here, and then progressive is following after it. So the answer is that the auxiliaries are going to appear after, which is the opposite of English. So now we're going to draw as tree structures for sentences 2 and 4. So this might seem a little scary, but I assure you it's not that bad. So I'm going to take this and put it at the bottom, and we're just going to label some words. So we're just going to work with the English here because that's really all we need to figure it out. So We have I, which is a pronoun or noun in this case. Pork, this will be a noun as well. Quickly will be an adverb. Eat will be a verb. And what's nice is we have tense here. So we already know where T is in our tree. Now, we have to remember a few things. One of those things is that in every language, a tense phrase is going to have a noun phrase, a tense, and either a verb phrase or an auxiliary phrase. But we don't know the order until we know what the language is. So the language is SOV. So the TP is going to branch out into a noun phrase. It's going to branch out into a verb phrase, and it also needs tense. So luckily, tense is already given. So we know it's going to be at the very end. It's at the very end of the sentence, so tense will be on the right, and the verb phrase comes after the noun phrase. So NPVPT, that is going to be the rule for Japanese. So now inside, we might also find some differences. Well, let's just label things as we can. I is going to be the subject of the sentence, so pro will attach to NP. But now we have quickly eat pork. But in Japanese, it's pork quickly eat. So what we can do is, well, we can start by saying, okay, the VP is going to have to link up to the verb. What is the adverb phrase doing? Well, it's modifying the verb, and then a noun has to build up into a noun phrase, and that's going to be the complement of the verb. So actually here, instead of English, which is V to NP, we do VP to NPV in Japanese. The order is backwards. So this would be the tree for I ate the pork quickly, or boku wa butaniku hayaku tabeta. Okay, sentence 4. I will give the blanket to Fred. So we'll just do the same thing as we did before. We'll take this bit, we'll move it down, and we'll start labeling things. So we have a pronoun, we have a noun, we have a preposition, we have a noun, we have a verb, and we have tense. Well, we already figured out from the previous question that this language takes an NP, it takes a VP, and then it takes tense. And we know the verb has to head the VP. So we also know we have two noun phrases here, and the preposition has to build up into a preposition phrase. Now, normally in English, what we would do is we would take the NP to the right, but we have to consider the translation here. What's the translation of the sentence? It's I will give the blanket to Fred. So in this language, it's the noun phrase on the left that is attaching to the prepositional phrase. And then we're giving a blanket, we're giving something, and we're giving it to a person. So instead of English, which would do a verb phrase to a V, NP, and a PP, instead in Japanese, it's going a prepositional phrase, a noun phrase, and then a verb. So this is backwards. But this would be how you draw the two trees in Japanese. So on your assignment, you have a couple questions like this. You just go through the same strategy, look at the translations, look at the full sentence to help figure it out, and then put the pieces together just like you would in English, but the order in which things attach or come out of the phrase will differ depending on the language. So the third question is about thematic roles. So this is something we looked at on Wednesday. So this is where we take a look at our verbs and we check to see what types of words or what types of roles each of the noun phrases acts at. So for A, we have we looked at the performance through the window. So when you think about looking, you need a looker. And looking is an active movement. You look at something, you move your eyes, it's done intentionally. So this is going to take an agent for we, And then when you're looking at something, the thing that you're looking at is the theme, it's the performance. So this is the thing that's undergoing the action of looking. So the looker is looking at the lookee, the agent's looking at the theme. Now in B, we see a slight contrast. So this is we saw the performance through the window. So when you see something, this is a passive action. You don't actively do something. This is an experience. So we, in this case, is what's called an experiencer. And the performance is just going to be the theme here as well. Okay, what you can also do instead of theme in this case, there's another category we're not going to use, but people tend to like this one. It's called the stimulus. It's the stimulus that's causing the experience. We can choose either. So C, we have two verbs. One is a gerund, but it still has verbal qualities, and the other is a passive. So the passive is going to be interesting. But let's do coming from Canada. So coming from Canada, this is just going to be a source. This is where we're coming from. It's the source of coming. Now, we were surprised by the lack of politeness. I want to give you an alternative to this sentence. So this is a passive form. We were surprised. But we could rephrase this back into the active form. So we could say, the lack of politeness surprised us. Now, this has the same meaning, but instead of passive, it's an active form. So what happens here? If we say the lack of politeness surprised us, this you can think of as either an agent or something that's causing the surprising, and us in this case is going to be the theme of surprising. So when we passivize it, the roles stay exactly the same. So this we is not an experiencer or an agent, but rather it's a theme because of the passive transformation. Now in D, Simone accidentally gave us the pasta for Justine to Benessois. Well, Simone accidentally gave, so we have a giver, we have an agent, someone gives something, this is an action. Gave the action, or sorry, gave the pasta for Justine. So something's for Justine. This is called a benefactor or benefactive. And then to Benessoir. So this is going to be our goal. This is where it's going. So it's for someone, it's a benefit for someone, but it's being given to a different goal. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. I think C was a little bit more difficult than the other ones. So just remember, if you have a be verb plus a verb in its ed or en form, you have a passive, and that means that you can restructure the sentence. So the thematic roles are maybe not as clear in those cases. So construct the active, find the thematic roles, and then revert it back to your original sentence. And the thematic roles will be the same as the active. Okay, so that was it for this week. Practice exercise 10 is due by next Monday's class, and test 3 is coming up on the 16th. So be prepared for that. Same rules as before. And you can always bug us on Discord, email, wherever you have questions.